on the right website.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursdays. We're very glad you're with us. It's September 2nd. Hard to believe that we're in the final quarter of the month. Today's presentation, the top 10 big mistakes of resume writing. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments that you put in the Zoom chat window do not appear in the Zoom recording. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please just open up the chat window, put in your questions. You're also welcome, if you want to network with everybody else on there, you can put your 30-second introductions in the chat window, and you never know who may be on the call who can help somebody else who's out there. For those watching on Facebook right now, if you have any questions, please just put them in the comment field. I am monitoring that feed, and I'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. In 2012, I started a second website called careerusa.org to help people outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been leading and facilitating the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s, and at the end of this program, I'll tell you about our upcoming program that we have scheduled for tomorrow morning. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Everybody spends a lot of time on their resumes. You spend time on LinkedIn, you spend time networking. How much time do you spend practicing interviewing? So if you'd like to have a free practice interview, reach out to me and I'll be glad to share some information on how you can do that. Where our speaker today is Tony Beshara. He's the owner and president of Babden Associates, one of the oldest and largest recruiting firms in Texas. He's going to talk about the top 10 big mistakes of resume writing. Tony sees hundreds of resumes on a weekly basis, and he's been seeing that weekly basis for many, many years now. So he knows what he likes. He knows what he doesn't like. So we're very glad you're with us. Tony, thanks for being with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll let you share your screen and off we go.
Okay, very good. I hit share screen.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Here you go.
All right. Okay. I've been doing this since 1973. And let me make sure my hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, very good. All right, I've been in this business since 1973. I've placed personally on a one-on-one basis more than 12,000 people since that time. And I don't know, there must have been at least 100,000, maybe 200,000 resumes. I probably get 30 or 40 resumes a day. Our firm gets hundreds a day. And it's been one of the most confusing things that people work with, because they think it's, first of all, you have to have one, but everybody has a different idea of what they want and what they think works. And there are some myths about the resume that we need to talk about and the mistakes that people make. And then at the end, we'll be able to answer any questions you might have. So the first big mistake is that people grossly overestimate the value of a resume. I've known people that have taken a week to write a resume rather than go on the phone and try to get an interview for themselves. Hour, maybe two, but they think that the resume is going to get them a job. It's not going to get them a job. Maybe it's going to get them an interview, but it's not going to get them a job. So it's important to have a good one, But don't think that just because you have a pristine, what you think is a pristine resume, that it's going to all of a sudden change your life, because it's really not. You got to recognize that the average resume gets read in 10 seconds. In fact, you'll hear me say this for the next 40 minutes. Your resume does not get read. Your resume gets scanned. People look at 4 things. Where do you work? Do I understand what those people do? What did you do there? Do I understand what you did? How long were you there? And how successful were you? That's what they look at. If they scan your resume and see what they like, they may very well call you in, but it takes them 10 seconds. I saw a study the other day said it takes 8 seconds. At 10, 12, what the heck's the difference? But you got to remember, they're not reading your resume, they're scanning it. They underestimate people underestimate the number of resumes interviewing or hiring authorities get. The average is somewhere, last year was somewhere around 100. This year, it's a little different, probably more like 70, 75. And most of the people that are looking at your resumes are looking at hundreds of them. 60% of the people, and we'll discuss this, that are looking at your resume don't really have anything to do with the job and don't really know that much about the job. People underestimate the qualifications of the people that will screen and read and pass your resume along. I would guesstimate, as I just mentioned, 60% of the people that are told to look at resumes and get me some good candidates aren't qualified to know what they're looking for. Somebody tells them, look for this, look for that, look for this in the resume. They may not even know what they were just told, not even understand what they were just told, but they look for what they were told to look for. They don't have a relativity of what they're looking for to what the job is, unless they're intimately involved in the job, which most of the time they're not. They don't even know what they're not even qualified to be looking at the resume. But somebody thinks, I don't want to sit through and look at 100 resumes. Some manager, some controller somewhere, some accounting manager, some sales manager. I don't want to look at 100 resumes. I'll have Shirley do it, or I'll have Leroy do it. And they don't even know whether Leroy or Shirley have any idea what's going on. So they may not even be qualified. People put the wrong content in their resume. Drives me crazy. The first thing they start out is with a summary and an objective. 1, summaries don't get read. 2, your objective, nobody gives a damn about your objective. They care about their objective. What your objective is, people could care less. Summaries waste the time. Like I said, people go to and they screen for what they can see, where you worked, what you did, who you did it for, and how long did you do it. That's what's important. So people write we got one the other day. The resume was 17 pages long. Oh, come on. 17 pages long. The judges on the Supreme Court don't have a resume 17 pages long. So you got to realize what people are looking for. The resume formats are distracting, drives me crazy. I got one the other day that had this light gray ribbon down the left-hand side of it. The phone number, the address, and the email address were off-white. And they were sitting on this light gray ribbon. I admit I'm old and my eyesight probably wasn't what it was even 10 years ago. I couldn't read the damn phone number. You can't do that. Resume, format, name at the top, phone number at the top, address at the top. LinkedIn profile address at the top, email address at the top, big, bold letters so people can see it when they need it. There's fancy stuff with hearts and flowers. And I got one not too long ago where it had, I didn't even know what it had on it. It had flowers. It had like roses all over the, yeah. I mean, I've known people that had looked at that and would throw the damn resume away because the format's so lousy. You got to put that stuff I just mentioned at the top of the resume. Don't put, I got a resume yesterday. It did not have a person's phone number on it. If I didn't happen to know where he had worked and who he had worked for, I'd have thrown it away. Anybody not bright enough to put your phone number on your resume or their LinkedIn profile on their resume. I mean, I'm trying to hire smart people here. Come on, keep that format real simple, black and white. That's it. How to contact me at the top, and then the format, what you're going to write after that. I don't recommend, as I mentioned, objectives or summaries. Get right to it. Experience, the name of the company that you worked for in bold letters, the date, the times that you worked for them in bold letters, and then describe each job you had for them under that in terminology that a high school senior could understand. Cover letters. I think they're a waste of time. I wrote a resume book, I admit, about 10 or 11 years ago, and I did a survey of about 4,000 of our employers and asked them if they read cover letters. And the people that said they read them, they only read the cover letter if they were interested in the resume. So they would look at the resume and then go back and read the cover letter. So I don't recommend that. Now, what you might want to do is consider, because you're emailing most resumes, I would put in the body of the email, here is why you should consider me as a good candidate, and give maybe 3 or 4 bullet points, but no more than 3 or 4 bullet points so that people can quickly read them. And I've done this with my own candidates, and I send the employer an email outlining the candidate's experience with bullet points. And sometimes they'll look at that, won't even read the resume. But don't a cover letter. Look, they're looking at 100 of these things. They want to read as little as they possibly can. They want your resume to hit them in the mouth with where you've been, what you've done, how you've done it, and how long you were there. That's what they want. Cover letters, waste of time. One size fits all is a mistake. Send in the same resume to everybody. We got computers these days. So do your best to customize the resume for the job that you are looking for and the job that you're looking at. And a lot of times job descriptions can help you, but just customize it. One size should not fit all. Now, there's going to be one size that might fit most, but customize it whenever you can. It's not that hard to do. Now, here's some other mistakes. Length, no more than 2 pages, okay? Maybe 2.5, but 2 pages. I mentioned this, objectives and summaries, get that off of there. You got to have dates. And my suggestion is to put months and years. If you got to fudge a little bit on that, people can live with it by just looking at the years. But you know, the year 2016 to 2018, that can either be 2 years or it could be 3 years, depending on, or it could be 1 year, depending on when you started and when you ended. But the dates ought to be pretty specific. I've had candidates get eliminated because I got one the other day. It didn't have dates on it. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. And then but the months and the years are best. Titles, be be very careful about a confusing title. There are some companies that I even work with, I place salespeople, and they call every salesperson a VP. So if you write down you're a VP and somebody's looking for a salesperson, they're going to see VP title and they'll throw it away because they think, we ain't looking for a VP. We're looking for a salesperson. So if you have to change your title, change your title. You're trying to get a job. Don't get hung up on some ridiculous title that somebody gave you. I got one not too long ago, and it said something like executive in charge of happiness. Huh? What? I mean, is that stupid? It looks stupid, and it was stupid. Don't do that. Put a normal title next to your job so people can communicate and understand what you've done. Now, some of the other basics that you have to go by on this is you've got to have good content in the resume. I'll give you, this is a resume that I got this morning. Here's some of the stuff that this lady says that she does in her resume. Coordinate all marketing and sales events. Held fundraisers, perform administrative duties. She's a salesperson, perform administrative duties. Responsible for meetings, responsible for coordinating social get-togethers. Junk. That doesn't say anything. The important things that have to come under the company you work for, and the job that you do, and the dates, is you've got to be able to explain to people what you did and how well you did it. I recommend the more numbers you can put on your resume, the better off you are. Even if you're not in sales, save the company 15%, lived within a budget under 25%. The stories sell and numbers tell. The more numbers that you can get on your resume and bold those numbers, the better off you are. People like numbers. So they'll look at who your company is. Now, I need to say something about that. There are 32 million businesses in the United States. People most of the time do not know who you worked for. So when you put the company name down, and I suggest bold it, in parentheses, tell people what the company did. And then under that, you put your title. And if it's a cockamamie title, tell people what you did in the job so they can relate to that. I would be willing to bet that 50% of the resumes I get, if I didn't know these companies, people don't write down what the damn company does. And it's like, I'm supposed to know that. And then under that, I'd say 35% of the time, I get candidates, they don't even tell me what they did. It's organized this and met with that and went to this. And like this lady wrote, what did you do at the company? What were you supposed to be doing? And then how well did you do it? Remember, you're not trying to get a job with this thing. You're trying to get an interview, and that's what's important. So fix it so that it's real easy to know who you worked for, what the company did, what you did there, and then some kind of performance. Now, what a lot of people do is in their summary up on top, sometimes they put all these accolades, 140% of quota. I had a guy one time that put on there, he was the #1 sales guy in the country. And it happened to be 20 years ago. And that doesn't mean anything. If you're going to put those kind of accolades down, they've got to be associated with a particular job. So put your accolades under the job that is associated with those particular accolades. And then the last thing is, well, next to the last thing is, they have the wrong resume strategy. People have a tendency to just think all they got to do is just send the resume out and somebody's going to look at it and they're going to be happy with it. And they 75–80% of the time they get no response at all. My suggestion is, if you are an accountant, find out who the controller is and send the resume to the controller. I would pick up the phone and call the controller and say, "Hi, I'm Tony Beshara. I'm an accountant. I understand that you all are looking for a good accountant. I'm forwarding you my resume. Please take a good look at it. I'm a good accountant because I'm this, this, and this," and explain that in the phone message, and then send the resume. Try to send the resume directly to the hiring authority. Now, some of these posted jobs don't let you do that. You have no choice but to send the resume to the people that, to whoever did the post. I understand that, but try to work around that if you can. If you're a salesperson, try to contact the sales manager. If you're a production manager, try to find the plant manager. You get my point. Try to find it. The closer you get to the person that is got the pain of needing to hire somebody, the better off you are. The further away you are from the person that has the pain, the less likely you are to have your resume get paid attention to. And then, we ended it. All right. There's one last one, and I think we had it on the last one, and I screwed this thing up. I'm sorry. And this is really important. Make sure your resume matches your LinkedIn profile. I'd be willing to bet that 30% of the candidates I get, their resume and their LinkedIn profile are not the same. Now you think, how would somebody do that? I have no idea. But I had a candidate the other day that was pretty darn perfect for a job that I sent her resume to. And the employer wrote back and even had a picture of her resume and the LinkedIn profile, and there were mismatches all over the place. I'm astounded. So now you'd think I wouldn't have to do this. I just about ask every candidate, now your resume and your LinkedIn profile match, do they not? Because if they don't, they better. That'll get you cut right there. I mean, you won't even get to first base because they're going to think you're lying, which one of them's right, one of them's wrong. But the dates have to match with what's on LinkedIn. So there you have the top 10 mistakes and what questions might people have?
I'll open it up. If you've got a question, you're welcome to. So Karen asked, what do you think about on some resumes, you'll see maybe 9 bullet points towards the top of the resume that maybe have some soft skills before you get to your experience.
That's nice. I mean, good communication skills, good written skills, show up in the morning. I mean, my recommendation is get right to the point. Here's my experience. Here's what I've done. Soft skills, they're going to find out whether you got them or not when they interview you. I don't, I don't think it's, I mean, enthusiastic, team player.
All right. Let's see here. How do you feel? Okay, so Bonnie asked, how do you feel about bridge jobs that are not related to your career experience? Is it better to include them or leave them out of a resume, LinkedIn profile?
If there are gaps in your resume professionally, and you filled them in by, like professional mom or something like that, then yes, I would put them in there because it's better than having a gap. When people see gaps in years, they automatically assume the worst. And they think, well, what was the person doing then? Okay. Now, I'm not wild about gaps, but if you've had them and you had something that really didn't have anything to do professionally with the situation, it's better to have those in there and maybe explain them with a sentence or so than it is to have the gaps. Because if you have gaps in there, then people are going to assume what's wrong with this picture.
Matthew, you had you wanted to follow up on a question. Do you want to unmute your mic and ask it? I haven't seen your question pop up yet.
Sure. Sorry about that. I put it in the chat, but I had truncated it by mistake. So following up to the top part, I have in there areas of expertise. And so then I have bullets of like team leadership and all of that. And I do adjust those, especially to the job. So if they need something or another, then I say, this is my area. I have that in my bullets.
Yeah, but when you get those soft skills at the top, that can't be related to a particular job, it doesn't mean anything. Team leader. I was the captain of my football team in high school. I mean, that the problem with that is they got 100 of these that they're looking at.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you were a team leader at your last company and you took the team from 0 to hero, that means something. That says something. But
I try to have them not be soft. I should just say that. I mean them to be hard skills.
Yeah, well, okay. I just wouldn't use very many of them.
Okay.
What you want them to do is get to the meat of where did you work? What did that company do? What did you do there? And how well did you do it? And I can't tell you, I can't overemphasize enough.
Right.
I tried to find an example before we got on to this, but I can't overemphasize enough that when you explain your job, you've got to explain the job so that a high school senior could understand exactly what you did, and preferably how successful you were reflected in numbers, because it's scanned, it's not read. And the guy that sent the 17-page resume, he thinks people are reading that. They're not. They're scanning it. If they like what they see, they'll set it aside and give you a call.
I think, Matthew, I think for, those bullet points, if those bullet points come from the job description, what you're doing is you're telling the recruiter, you're looking for this. Hey, here are my, here are 6 bullet points about what it is I do. And if they're all in the job description, you're helping them make that match. But you've got to make sure that you do talk about them, in your further down in your job description.
I got a resume the other day from a guy that had those things on the top, and he said he wrote 110% of quota every year for the last 10 years. Amen, brother. I set that aside. I didn't even, I looked at who he worked for, but anybody that's going to perform like that is probably going to perform anywhere else like that. Right. So in that case, it worked.
Just one small thing that, because I've been working for federal government quite a bit, in a federal government resume, you want to get some help, have people help you do it who have done it before. And it's one place where you do want everything to show up in a federal job application.
Federal government,
17 pages.
Federal government, nonprofit organizations, and things like that. The formats of the resumes are different. Next time I'll remember to say that in the very beginning, that I'm talking about mostly business ones, but when it comes to federal government or city government, state, local government, anything in the government area, their formats are a little different.
All right.
And they actually read all of them because there are not that many people applying.
Right. Barry says, overcoming age on a resume. 2 pages says a lot. There are companies in this, oh, so that's the first part. And the second part is, there are companies in this economy in North Texas hiring very experienced people.
Yeah, I felt this all along. I'm 73 and I got in this when I was 25. And ever since I've been in it, there's always been this issue of age. And we hear it all the time. We don't report it. We don't talk about it. But I think trying to, 2 pages is reasonable. Trying to only put in there so many so they won't know how old I am, I think it's a little ridiculous. They're going to find out how old you are, all right, when they interview you. Now, this market is such that people aren't as choosy as they used to be. The concern about age is energy, commitment, passion, and that kind of thing. And it gets a bad rap, but there's nothing you can do about it. So what I tell my candidates to do is to go to the second page, and then down at the bottom of the second page, previous experience, just put dates and people that they worked for, but don't do much of a description. My sense is they're going to find out how old you are, and whether they do it now or whether they do it later doesn't matter. The nice thing about it is these days, most of the managers are boomers, okay, or on tail end. So they're old too. So they don't mind as much. There's not as much of a concern about that as there has been in the past. People are sensitive to it because they think that that's one thing that keeps me from getting interviewed. And it's probably not anywhere near as much as what everybody thinks it is, but because it's them, they're trying to think, well, it's not my qualifications. My qualifications are phenomenal. I've had 4 jobs in 4 years, but everybody ought to understand that. Well, that's probably why they got eliminated, and it has nothing to do with their age.
And I think, Tony, you say it's, people need to show that they have some enthusiasm and they've got that vim and vigor to be able to handle the job. It's really interesting. Next Wednesday, for interviewing Wednesdays, we're going to talk about interviewing openings, closings, and following up, and how to start that interview with purpose and intention, to make sure that you're showing that you're excited about being here. You show a statement of enthusiasm. So, if you want to follow up, everybody who's on the call today, if you want to hear more about that, join us next Wednesday.
Just yesterday, I had a candidate where he's in the final stages of the interview, and the guy he's going to work for, he went to interview with his boss, and they did a Skype, and I hate him. It's another discussion, but the guy's 60 years old, and the vice president of the company said, well, geez, I don't know. He told this to my contact, the regional manager. He said, can a guy 60 years old, does he have the energy that we really need? So my client was going to do this anyhow. He takes the guy to lunch. The guy played football at Texas, was a national champion, spent 4 years playing football at Texas, never lost a game. He's 60 years old. He looks like he's about 35. He's built like a brick shithouse, and he exudes energy. And he's all over the place. And you just would never walk away from this guy thinking that his energy wasn't there and all of that kind of thing. And that's the guy looked at his age. It has nothing to do with his age. You got energy or you don't have energy, and it doesn't matter what age you are. So
yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, as long as I've been doing this, and I'm sure as long as Tony's been doing this, one of the things we see is, if you tend to get a lot of phone calls from your resume is in good shape, But then if you're going on a bunch of interviews and you're not getting the second, third interview, maybe that's where the issue is. It's you know, what are your interviewing skills? You're not showing that energy. You're not showing that, you know, you're not telling them what they need to know. So that's why we always say practice your interviewing, because, you know, if you're getting the phone calls, that's 50% of it, but now you got to work on the interviewing skills.
And there's nothing wrong with, after you interview with somebody, you know, calling them up or writing them and saying, why didn't I make the cut? We have a tendency sometimes to think that, what did I do wrong? And sometimes it's nothing. You know, the difference between the candidate that gets hired and the candidate that doesn't, I can't tell you. I mean, you know, I really can't tell you. I mean, there's a little bit of difference. They like one better than another one. And sometimes they can't even, in fact, a guy told me the other day, difference between him and the other guy you sent was, I just like him better. I said, well, what do you like? And he couldn't even say it. He just liked him better. You know, so there's not as much business acumen that goes into it as you might think there is.
Right. Matthew asked, I've never done it, but I've thought about including, what are your thoughts about including a professional picture on your resume?
I used to hate it. And I used to hate the idea of a picture on a resume. I still don't like it, but we have LinkedIn now. So they're going to go to LinkedIn and look at your picture. And please, please, please put your damn picture on LinkedIn. The quickest way to get eliminated is to not have a picture on LinkedIn, because what that communicates is, I'm trying to hide something. Now, most people say, well, I don't want them to know my age. Cut it out. They're going to find out your age anyhow. But don't. So I don't think you need to put it on your resume. Most people, if they like your resume, they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile anyhow. And you got to have your picture, and make sure the picture that you have is a professional one. I had a guy sometime back that had a picture of himself with the bear that he shot. And the people that I sent the resume to, they were all PETA folks, and they said, anybody that likes to shoot bears doesn't belong here. Well, I don't have a problem if the guy gets eliminated from the job, but for goodness sakes, don't get eliminated that way. You know, have a professional picture on it, and make sure everybody can get the picture, because there's some of these pictures on LinkedIn only certain people can get to. Don't be coy. If you're looking for a job, you want everybody in the world to look at that picture, and make sure that it's a professional picture, not one, and don't misunderstand me. We had 5 kids. I love them. We got 8 grandkids. I wish we had 18, but we got 8 grandkids, and I love them too. But I don't want a picture of me with my grandkids fishing. It just doesn't look very professional, and it will turn some people off.
Right. So we're one day in the fourth quarter here. What do you see in the job market here in the DFW area, or even just, you know, around the United States?
Yeah, it's good. It's heck, we're running out of candidates. We can I haven't seen it this good since 1999. It's been, we just can't find enough good candidates, and neither can our employers, and they're calling us. Now, fortunately, we've been here since 1952, and we've got probably 200,000 candidates in a database, but we can only go through so many. So we are needing all the candidates that we can get. Most employers are too. To put that in perspective, the distance between looking for a job and getting an interview is greater today than it's ever been. When I got in this business, we didn't even have fax machines. We got resumes to employers via the mail, or we literally had candidates go by and drop them off. Now there's so many steps in between that the candidate is at a disadvantage. You send your resume into some, portal somewhere. You don't know if anybody looks at it. I'm willing to bet you that 40% of the resumes that go into a portal for a particular job don't even get read, don't even get looked at. So in spite of the fact that the market there are more jobs out there now than there have been in a number of years, getting that interview is a little harder to do than it used to be. But, if you have to squeeze your way in, if you have to call your way in, you got to be able to do it. So it's more encouraging than it certainly was in COVID.
Questions anybody has out there? Anybody else have any questions? You can unmute your mic, go down the space bar. Well, Tony, will you please, I'm going to pop up your web page on
Sure.
on the internet. You want to talk a little bit about, who you're looking for and what, a little bit more about what you do?
We need IT people, we need accountants, we need salespeople, we need bankers, we need administrative people. We handle everything but healthcare, and we need as many of all those other people as you can possibly imagine. Now, I will tell you that employers are still extremely careful, and they take a ridiculously long time. This is a different discussion. We can do it again sometime, but they take a ridiculously long time to hire somebody because everybody doesn't want to make a mistake. I wrote a 60-hour online program about how to find a job called the Job Search Solution. So if you're not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, go to it. It's everything you ever wanted to know about finding a job, everything I've learned in the 49 years I've been doing this. And we actually try to interview our candidates face-to-face, bring them in. I do Zoom. I have to because of COVID, but it's not as good a medium as it is meeting somebody face-to-face. The secret to that is that when you are in a video, they can't measure as much of your body language and what I call your athleticism. And these days, a lot of employers can't find exactly the kind of experience that they're looking for. So they have to find as close of experience as they can get. And then they have to buy athleticism. What kind of potential and what kind of future might this person have in our organization? You can't do that as well with Zoom or any of the videos. That's why a face-to-face is so important.
And I've popped up your job listings, current job listings are on there. Take a look at these jobs. If you find something on there, reach out to the recruiter. You can reach out to Tony, or tell whatever recruiter's name happens to be on one of those jobs. Tell them you saw Tony presenting today about resumes and, you're qualified to fill one of those jobs, help them out a little bit. I know Babbage & Associates got my last full-time job for me back in 2007. So, I really appreciate the people there and everything.
Thank you, Jeff. And we'll be pretty blunt and not blunt, but forthright about what we can do or what we can't do for you. Our average recruiter's been here for 15 years. So, we've seen just about everything you can imagine. And the average recruiter in the country only stays in this business 15 months. That's primarily because the wrong people are hired in it. That's another discussion, but it's another way of saying most of us are old, but we're experienced.
What do you see pay rates going right now? I mean,
Oh yeah.
Always another interesting.
Well, they're going up, partly because of inflation, but partly because it's what happens. You've got this group of accountants in your organization. You got 8 accountants, right? So 2 of them leave and you got to hire 2 more accountants. So you go to hire these accountants, and these accountants that you're looking at to hire are making $5,000 more than what the ones you got in your company. And so if you go to hire them, you're going to find out you're going to have to start giving everybody raises or they'll leave. And so it happens this way out of every recession. I've seen 8 recessions and it happens exactly this way every time. The salary ranges go up because they have to in order to get the people. We've even started seeing, no promises, but we've even started seeing people that are given sign-on bonuses. And we haven't seen that in, I don't know, years. But we got a candidate, a fairly low-level position, a sign-on bonus the other day, just to make sure the candidate didn't take that offer and go shop it somewhere else. And that was the reason for giving the sign-on bonus. So it's a better market than it's been in a long time.
Right. Well, Tony, thank you very much for your time. For anybody who'd like to connect with Tony, here is his profile on LinkedIn. You're welcome to reach out to Tony on LinkedIn. Let him know that you saw him here. Send a personal note. It's probably the best way to, contact them through LinkedIn. So there's the information. There's the name of the company right down here at the very bottom, Babbage and Associates, and you can find that up on the website and reach out that way. Tony, thank you very much for your time.
A pleasure. Thank
if
you
you'd
so
like
much.
to get a sample T cover letter, a sample resume, a sample bio, if you haven't gotten them and you'd like to get the ones that we use, that we sort of recommend, and it has a lot of the things that Tony talked about, you can send a resume, send an email to resume@careerdfw.org. Let me know what you're looking for, and I'll be glad to get those documents to you. Sometimes I don't get around to that email account until the weekend, but I will get to it by Saturday for sure. So if you're interested in getting those documents, please reach out to me. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We're going to have open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about in your job search. We'll have some experts with us. If you've got a question, ask. It's, and anybody who can participate. It's sort of a free-for-all. Anybody, we're just looking, we never know where it's going to go. We don't know what the hot topics are going to be. So please just join us. Next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesday, Kurt Vondermatter will be with us. Kurt is a retained executive recruiter. Tony's laughing. He knows Kurt, I'm sure.
I know Kurt, yeah.
Yeah, and what Kurt's going to do is he's going to talk about how he uses LinkedIn. He spends $10,000 to $20,000 a year with LinkedIn on the full-blown recruiting package. He'll show us what the recruiting package looks like and what he does to look for people like you. So it's always a very interesting presentation because we don't often get to see LinkedIn from the back end. So he'll talk about that next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. For interviewing Wednesdays, I mentioned this already, we'll be on session number 6, interview openings, closings, and follow-up. Sessions 1 through 5 were all about preparing for an interview. Sessions 6 through 10 were all about the actual interview, what to do during the interview, after, following up, everything like that. So join us. Tomorrow's topics, or Wednesday's topics, will be interview openings, closings, and following up. And getting a good opening is really, really important when you start out with an interview. And then next Thursday, it'll be the second Thursday of the month. So we'll be talking about networking. Michael Goldberg, who used to be a boxer, I don't know, maybe he still may box when he goes to the gym on weekends. He's going to talk about knockout approaches to networking. It's a great presentation. If we've had 21 different people talk about networking, and you have to do it. Hopefully one of these people will talk about, here's something that sort of sticks with me, maybe how it should work. So please join us for networking next Thursday at 1 o'clock. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, be sure to click on playlist where you see that green arrow, and then up will pop all these different topics. I've made 6 or 7 different playlists: resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, networking, and then don't click on the video, but click down below where it says view full playlist. And when you do that, up will come a list of all the different speakers and people who've talked about LinkedIn or talked about resumes or link whatever topic you're in. The newest one should be on top. If not, click on that little sort button. But you can go back and review these. We don't share the PowerPoints for any of the presentations, but you can go back and watch these videos at your leisure as often or as whenever you need to do. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, if you're new, you found us somehow, if you'd like to get a daily email, I put out a daily email that talks about the title of the day, the topic of the day, and the Zoom link of the day. So I make it real easy for you to, just be able to click on the link and you can join our presentations 4 days a week. So if you'd like to send us an email at Career USA, the +sign subscribe at groups.io, and we'll get you added to our mailing list. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Tony's a volunteer. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. What I've done over the last 13 years has just been, has been a volunteer just to help you land your next great opportunity. Please consider making a donation when you land your next job. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much for joining us today, Tony. Thank you for your time. And for everybody else, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow, or if not, have a great Labor Day weekend.
Thank you, Jeff.